important for us because our mod is at stake. So we want to be very aggressive on claims management. As you know from where you sit, it's hard to sell this product if my mod is a 1.25 or 1.5. Nobody's going to want to buy that product. At Southeast, we've done a very good job of our claims management. We have a 0.68 mod, just to tell you how good our claims management is.
Welcome to Insurance Shoptalk. This is the podcast where the world of commercial insurance gets a little closer to home. I'm your host, Eric Stein, and in every episode, we're taking a deep dive into the insurance industry, from the latest news and trends to in-depth interviews with InsurTech experts, carriers, and agency newsmakers. We're covering it all. So sit back, tune in, and let's start the conversation. Well, guys, today I want to thank Sean Harrell and Jason at Southeast Personnel, Jason Walsh, that is, at Southeast Personnel, for joining us today. Southeast is a phenomenal company. They've been around for quite a long time, and I've worked with them quite a bit at Insured Solutions in the past and then currently, and it's a phenomenal market for the alternative risk profile on workers' comp. And I don't want to steal their thunder, but I'll just set the stage a little bit for Sean and Jason, that with a PEO, and that's what Southeast Personnel is a PEO, professional employer organization, and basically creating a co-employment relationship with the client and Southeast Personnel in order to provide employee benefits, workers' comp, pay-as-you-go payroll services, risk management, and a host of other services. And a lot of agents have some misconceptions about PEOs. I happen to just, know about PEO from working for one for quite a while in my beginning of my career. And one of the conceptions is that the client loses control of his employees or his business, which is not the case. And I know Sean and Jason will go into that. Also, a lot of the times, unfortunately, and Jason and I have this conversation a lot, the carriers don't give agents enough time on the quoting process in terms of when they deliver their quotes to the agent so they can deliver them to the client. They wait to the last minute right before binding. The PEO, even though it could be a phenomenal option for the customer, ends up not getting presented because there's not enough time to transition the payroll services for the client to be able to join the PEO to get all the services and get the pricing. So that being said, we'll talk through that a little bit today and a little bit about Southeast as far as their, what they're targeting with alternative risk, which they do a phenomenal job with. So I'll turn it over to you guys. So the first question I had was that kind of give us the brief overview of, Southeast and what they offer.
Well, Eric, thanks for having us. We're pleased to be here. As you said, we're a PEO, professional employer organization. Basically, the client's employees become our employees, and then we lease them back to the client. And by doing that, we can offer workers' compensation coverage when they report payroll on a weekly or biweekly basis. Okay, and it's a pretty simple process. Every week they report payroll, and by doing that, they're covered. Pay-as-you-go, as you had mentioned, program. So the budgeting is there for them. They can know what their costs are for both the workers' compensation fees and also for the payroll administrative fees. So something that they can budget relatively easily for them. That's one of the benefits of going to a professional employer organization.
Perfect. So, yeah, go ahead, Sean. You want to add something?
I like the simplicity of it. At the end of the work week, we collect the hours. We put together an invoice. So when the business owner pays the invoice, they've paid their workers' comp bill, they've paid their quarterly taxes, and they've paid their employees, and they don't have to worry about it. They're done.
Perfect. And the cool thing, luckily for all of us on this call, is that, or this meeting, is that the industry with the carriers have finally come to the realization in workers' comp that you should offer a pay-as-you-go billing model if you can. And there's been startup vendors, like Smart Pay and some others that are out there meeting with these carriers and selling them on the model of a system to manage the reporting process, so the client can actually get a standalone work comp product and have it built pay-as-you-go. And I'm just now starting finally getting agents to say when they send the submission in, hey, only quote this, pay as you go or monthly reporting or, weekly or biweekly reporting form because the clients want it because it helps their cash flow, So anyway, I bring up the standalone workers' comp market with that it's now finally getting down to the client level and to the agent level to be more prevalent, which helps all of us when we're trying to present the PEO model, to the agent and the client, So it's really cool. So what makes Southeast, Personnel Leasing stand out in your opinion as far as the PEO? Because there's probably, I don't know, 500 plus PEOs out there. What makes you guys different?
Eric, a lot of PEOs today, they specialize in health benefits or healthcare plans, that kind of stuff. That's really just not us. We're a workers' comp coverage PEO, if you will, maybe more traditional that way. And that's kind of our focus is taking care of the workers' comp and the workers' comp claims for the client.
Perfect. And you, as you know, on our call today, we have mainly property and casualty insurance agencies on and some PEO brokers that are listening as well. So they're all ears when you talk that, that's their main focus because that's their main focus as well. As far as the, can you kind of go into, in your opinion, what is alternative risk workers' comp? Why is it important for construction, for people to, in that construction industry, transportation, temp staffing, roofing, all those heart of the place? Like, what's your opinion?
But yeah, to me, traditional workers' comp policies is, the carrier writes the policy directly to client company. This we call it alternative because, again, like Jason mentioned, we take their employees and we lease them back to them. It's better for those construction guys who don't know all the finite details of the payroll, the comp, the state unemployment filings, all those kind of things. Where with us, they can partner with a PEO like Southeast, and we take care of all that. So that's why I think it's a better alternative market for those types of industries you mentioned.
Perfect. And go into as an example, when you bring on a new client, let's say, and when I ask agents to do it, again, it's hard because of how they get their quotes back from carriers at the last second. But, let's look at a PEO option as part of the submission process. Of course, you'll compare it to the, traditional market. And then usually in that alternative risk area where the client's got a higher mod or, high claims because they trusted the work comp system to take care of things. And of course, that doesn't work that way. So, let's look at that PEO model, and we want to do it at least 30 days in advance or 20 days even is helpful. So that we can then, if the number looks good, from a competitive standpoint, if they've got the expiring premium or a target premium and it's all in the ballpark, or even better sometimes. I know Jason and I work together and we've been lower, and it includes the payroll services, all the services that, are provided by Southeast. And we don't have time to, finish the presentation because it's just too rushed. So, we ask that the clients or the agents, get it quoted, take a look. Don't assume the client's not going to automatically say no to it just because maybe there's, some myths or what have you that the client has, or even some agencies have for that. But to kind of put everybody at ease, if you've got the right amount of time, talk about the integration. What really changes for the customer, other than having to switch payroll around from either going to a third-party service or in-house? What you guys done a million of these, orientations and transitions. Talk about what changes, for the client.
Well, I want to say before we get to the changes, it doesn't take a lot of time for us to present. Okay, I think the hardest part is that sometimes I'll send a proposal over and it'll be immediately, oh, I didn't realize it was PEO. They don't want that. And that seems to be the hardest thing to overcome is the initial, thought of their client not wanting to deal with PEO at all. And it goes back to what you were saying. Maybe they had a bad experience many years ago, and back in 1986, and they want to keep that fresh in their head. And that's the hardest part to overcome. So if we can get past that point, then the actual enrollment part is very simple. Okay. And like I was saying, we don't need a lot of time to do the presentation and to do the enrollment. It can be very quick. Okay. So the hardest part, I think, is just getting the acceptance of maybe some of these agents are not, are familiar with PEO that well. They've heard some things in the past, and they don't want to even present it. Going back to your original statement of I don't want to lose control over my employees. I've heard of all those, and as soon as they say that, I say, look, I don't even talk to your employees. I don't want to ever talk to them. And if they ever try to talk to me, I refer them to you. We don't tell them what to do, when to come in. We just do their application and pay them because you told us what to pay them, and that's it. So I don't know if that answers your question, but the enrollment process is fairly quick and simple. I can enroll, a 10-person or less submission in a day. We can get through quotation, underwriting approval, and enrollment in 1 to 2 days. So we don't need a lot of time to get that going. And then to present, I can present with the agent. I can present without the agent. It all depends on how much they want me involved. I'd be welcome to do any range of involvement.
Yeah, I noticed it's good to have you on in the marketing area, the call, because the client, of course, the agents are going to be able to answer all the work comp questions. It's the payroll questions and the transition questions that you deal with every single day to get that client comfortable to say, hey, this is how you're reporting payroll now. This is how you'll do it with us. And usually it's very similar. I mean, payroll is payroll. I mean, there's some, definitely some complicated payrolls out there, but you guys have such good reporting capability and especially dealing in this blue collar space, you guys have seen like 98% of what these guys are facing. So it's like you said, I've noticed, it's not a hard transition. And Jason, you in particular do a phenomenal job of being very detail oriented about it so that things go well on the very beginning, which is important, in that initial, process, because it's always, there's a change is a change. So it's not just like buying a work comp policy,
And if they didn't have an issue with their previous payroll company, that is a little harder to overcome because, like you said, it is change. Some didn't care if they left their payroll company, so that's a little easier. And then there's others that want to leave their previous payroll company, and that's the kind of an easier win on that one.
Got it.
So we have the wide range.
And I always like, from an agent who hasn't utilized a PEO in the past, and these are great fits for Southeast, by the way, is I always like to start with a very high risk account, 2+ OMI, very high claims because they trusted the system or didn't have the right staff in place to help manage either claims or risk management. So things have gone haywire for the client. The agent's getting really terrible standard market quotes or they're not getting quotes back. It's a good introduction because the client doesn't have as many choices. It just helps everybody on our end to kind of acclimate that agent to the PEO, and it gets more quicker buy-in, rather than just waiting forever to get all these quotes in as well. So, that to that point, can you kind of go into the process that Southeast uses to assess and manage risk for the client?
Yeah, Eric, we've been doing it for 30 years, not me personally, but the company has, and we've gotten a pretty good system down to where we work with our carriers and we look at each client on a client by client basis. We look at their loss runs, obviously, their past history with claims, and we try to make it pricing where it's affordable for them, but also where they're getting their proper coverage. They're getting the right codes, they're getting the right limits. Everything needs to be, what fits the client. As far as management, we have a good loss control management team that they'll actually go out and do inspections. They're not there to beat up the client. They're there to assist the client, maybe answer questions. How can I do this safer? Or are there PPE that would work in this situation? That's what they're there for. And that helps kind of overall keep our claims down as a company. Because, you mentioned the PEO, the employees are ours. So we try to look at it from a company-wide safety standpoint.
Right. Administratively, the employees are under the federal ID number of Southeast. That's the way that the employees can gain access to those phenomenal, benefits, and the client gains access to a better workers' comp rate by pooling with other companies. And so, there's I guess I always tell the agents, there's a shared partnership now. I mean, the carriers always say they're partnering, but because of the way the system's set against them, the employer, and favors more the employee, now you finally have an advocate with Southeast as an example, because you're able to, be in it together, because it's technically your policy, your master workers' comp policy that they're now joining to get these great rates that's got millions of premium on it versus their usually 10,000s or 100,000s of premium, or they're usually the best fit, for the PEO. So they're able to reduce their costs. They got a partner like you helping with loss control. And on that loss control piece, I mean, if the client wants to get more engaged, can you guys help them with their safety plan, with the right, written safety plans, with return to work programs, things like that?
Yes, it's more of a consultative standpoint. We can help them with that. Yes, sir.
Perfect.
I know in talking with HR, we are kind of limited to what we can offer, or where we can guide them. We'll do it as much as we can, but there are some things where it is a co-employer relationship, and we said earlier that they don't want to lose control of their employees or their business, and that's one thing we don't want to do is get into it too deep, where we're telling them kind of what to do, and that's something that we're contractually not allowed to do.
Which is good. That's what they want to hear.
I don't know if we mentioned about.
Yeah.
Oh, Eric, I don't know if we mentioned about the carriers that we work with. We specifically work with only 2. In the 23 states in Washington, D.C. that we cover, 22 of them are with Lion Insurance Company, and they only work with us. Okay, we're affiliated with just that one A-rated carrier. And then in California and New York, it's State National, another A-rated carrier.
Perfect. Because of your size, you have a lot of, clout, if you will, with these carriers to allow you to, A, get the pricing to be competitive, but B, it's a lot of flexibility there, when needed, to accommodate the clients, wouldn't you say?
Yes, sir.
And then
I know I ask a lot of times, Eric, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I know I ask a lot of times when I get a submission, do they have a target? And if I can get a target, if it's possible, even if it's like a renewal premium target, that would be helpful, instead of best price sometimes, because that helps me go to our owner who does our pricing for the large premium clients. And you'd be surprised what kind of discounts we can offer them.
Oh, agreed. Yeah, that just saves everyone time, to know whether we're going to be in the ballpark or not right off the bat. And you've been, again, great at working with me on that. When I provide you the target, you'll get me some indication pricing back, typically very quickly, the same day or the next morning. I'm able to discuss that now with the agent, to say, hey, let's look at this. It's close enough. I think that we need to look at this as competitive, and again, not assume that the client is going to be against changing payroll or against a PEO. Let's give that client a chance, to hear what it can offer, because again, it is a different product than just workers' comp alone. You're getting a lot more value with the consolidation of vendors, pay-as-you-go billing, risk management, loss control, claims management, that again, an advocate on your side that could really help, the client. They need to hear it. Whether they choose to go this year with it, that's their decision as well. And sometimes, I know Jason and I, we talk about this a lot, and Sean, sometimes we will come in high when you combine the administrative fees with the workers' comp premium and get a total number. Sometimes that will be higher than just the workers' comp alone. And there's a reason for that. They're getting the payroll services, and payroll services for agents out there. A lot of them already have connections with payroll services or dialed into it now. I've even seen some agents even offer payroll services out of their offices, with their own systems with and such. But payroll services usually charge, at the end of the day, $2 to $3 per check, so that can really add up on a 100-person account paying weekly. These payroll services all bill things differently. So you can't ever see, one number unless you add everything up till the end of the year and then divide it out. But $2 to $3 is a good, in my opinion, a good number for estimate of what it costs. So to try to compare a $100,000 Southeast quote with a, $90,000 workers' comp quote, is not apples to apples. And we talked through that quite a bit.
Eric, the other thing, if I'm an agent, and I'm not one, but I know a lot of them, obviously, from being in this business, they spend a lot of their time chasing renewals every year. You got to check that renewal, make sure with the PEO, as long as they're running payroll, they're automatically renewed. So there's no renewal at the end of the year to have to spend your time trying to get a quote. You can, obviously, but you don't have to.
Right. If the client's temperature on claims and cooperation and reporting is going well, I haven't really seen any increases on my clients.
That's right. Exactly.
And then in some cases, if they're going really well, and following the direction of you guys of Southeast, we could talk about getting more competitive at a renewal time, right?
That is correct. Absolutely.
But you're right.
Well,
go ahead. I'm sorry.
Sorry, Eric. I was going to say, to add to that, I personally, and I know other reps here do the same, is during the years that they're with us, and I pride myself in having a good retention rate of my clients. I've been here 5 years, and I've got some that are with me 5 years, 4 years, and it's because during the year, I'll do a review of their account and see if they are, potentially available to get a reduction in their rate or their fees. Okay, it doesn't have to be at renewal time. I am dialed into their employees as far as how many employees they have. When they need to add employees, they call me to do applications, and I help them with that. And by doing that, I can see if their payroll has gone up, and I call them up and say, hey, by the way, your payroll has gone up to double in the last 2 months or 3 months. I'm going to put in a rate review and get you a discount. And I am able to do that. Obviously, we look at their claims also. So
we don't have to rate for the renewal.
Yeah.
That's phenomenal, because there's no carrier that ever does that midterm. That sets you guys apart.
Yes,
as well. And then, as far as some challenges like providing the work comp to the high risk industries, how do you guys overcome them?
Eric, what we see a lot is, especially in construction and roofing, they have ebbs and flows to their business. Sometimes they're busy and their payroll's gangbusters, and sometimes it drops tremendously. Maybe it's a rainy week or just a slow period during the year. They're not at a risk with getting canceled from us. With other standard carriers, if the payroll drops too much, obviously premium is based off of payroll, and those carriers will get off the risk. Well, with us, we have a fixed cost built in, and I'm thinking about the small artisan contractor, if you will. With that baked in fixed cost, they know even if their payroll drops, they still have coverage in place.
That's great. That's a good benefit as well. And then in terms of your, like, I know a lot of agents ask if it's a new program we're representing for workers' comp, how in your, but for Southeast, as far as the claims department, how do you guys deal with workers' comp claims? What's the process for clients?
The process for the client is to get the employee medical attention and get the claim turned into us. And from there, the business owner can step out. They're done at that point. 'Cause remember, on paper, they're our employees. So we're going to take the claim from that point, soup to nuts, if you will. So we open up an investigation. One of the things that you touched on earlier is it's important for us because our mod is at stake. So we want to be very aggressive on claims management. As you know from where you sit, it's hard to sell this product if my mod is a 1.25 or 1.5. Nobody's going to want to buy that product. At Southeast, we've done a very good job of our claims management. We have a 0.68 mod, just to tell you how good our claims management is.
P&C agents, have you run into Byberg, which is a Berkshire Hathaway company quoting workers' comp for either your prospects or clients? Well, great news. Insurance Solutions, a national MGA, has an appointment that is set up to allow you to quote, bind, and service Byberg at your agency. And the coverage is in all states. It's A-rated. Startups are even accepted. There's $125,000 maximum premium. And some of the tough industries they write are construction, transportation, that includes towing and parcel delivery, manufacturing, security guards that are armed and unarmed, motor mediation, and many more. So go to our website at insurancesolutions.net, click the Get Appointed link. We'll get you logins for you and your team, and can set up a webinar for training if you'd like. Also, feel free to email info@insurancesolutions.net, and I can handle the submission myself, or call 770-402-5343. Be glad to speak to you and give you more detail. Thanks. Awesome. That's good. So it's a lot very hands-on. And again, like you said, you become an advocate, for the client, because you guys are in that together as a partnership where the carrier just got to follow a lot of state rules and regulations depending on where they're located, and follow the whole maze, of the claim process with attorneys and all that. You guys just take care of it all for them.
Yes, sir. Because of our relationship with our carriers, they allow us to use TPAs that we have very good relationships with. So we can get aggressive with the TPAs. And I know you're familiar with it, but in a standard market policy, if you will, when there's a claim, the carrier really don't care that they're going to raise the rates at renewal time anyway. Where with us, again, it's my mod at stake. I have to have a mod that's sellable. So we use TPAs that really jump on those things. We know what the cost should be, what the reserve should be set at, and we try to keep those costs at or below that.
Awesome. And then, like, the adjusters pretty much assume the same model that any carrier has. They'll be in touch with the client. They may have to call the employer as well to figure out information. Is that employee back at work? Things like that, or do they go through someone in your area to figure out if they're back at work, or can they speak to the customer?
Yeah, we have a claims department that works with the client to make sure they know what's going on with their employee. State by state has different rules, different laws we have to follow, but ultimately we want to keep the client up to speed on what's going on. And like you said, the idea is to get the cost low and get the employee back to work.
And to add, our claims person may reach out to the insured, the client, the contractor, and talk about the paperwork they got or the conversation they had with the doctor. And they may not know all the doctor's terminologies and everything, so they explain what that meant, what that means. They know what a certain injury should be set up for a reserve, because we've done them for many years now. But the main thing, like Sean said, is to make sure that the employee does get the treatment he needs, because sometimes they're pretty stubborn. I'm okay, I'm fine, I don't need to get treatment or anything like that. And then next thing you know, the claim is bigger a month from now. That's something that's not good for anybody, not the employee, not us, and not the client. So we'll definitely be hands-on to get the employee back to work, or whatever else that we need to do to keep the claims down.
Excellent. And then we kind of touched on risk management, so I'll kind of skip around a little bit from our notes we made prior to this conversation. But if as far as a success story, where Southeast, impacted a client's overall insurance costs, can you kind of walk through one example or so, like what you've seen in the past, how you guys have impacted their overall insurance costs?
Well, we were talking about trying to figure out one that we can talk about, and I personally have had many where they've had a life-changing kind of a claim, catastrophic claim. They're non-renewed. They come to us, and we pick them up. Okay, we pick them up with the fixed costs and get them back to working, being able to work. That's the number one worry that an owner has, is like, I'm not going to have coverage, so I can't have, and it could be like next week, and with our ability and the staff that we have here and underwriters downstairs, we can get this going pretty quickly and get them enrolled quickly, or in your case, covered. That's the number one complaint or worry that they have, is that they're not going to have coverage, and we can take care of that for them. And then once they become our client, then we can help them get those fixed costs reduced. Like I said earlier, I can look at it midstream, mid-year. Hey, you've been doing great for the last 6 months. Remember, this was a catastrophic event. They have no claims before this. Because of this one catastrophic claim, they're being non-renewed. With us, after 6 months or after a period of time, we can revisit and get that fixed cost that they came in at and lower it back down to closer to where they should be. And then, of course, when they're ready to leave or can leave, I'll do my best to earn their business and retain their business.
Yeah, Eric, the ones that stick out in my mind are the ones that once we get them written, they tell us, you know what, I had nowhere else to go. I was getting ready to close my doors and just go out of business. I couldn't find affordable workers' comp. Those are the ones that stick out in my head. We're able to get it, help them mitigate those claims, help them get it back on the right track, and like Jason said, work the cost down back to where they're in line.
Makes sense. Yes, they might come in that scenario of having a terrible experience, claims or mod, what have you, and then some of them never even heard of a PEO at that point, and the agent brings it to them, so now they're a hero for introducing the concepts, saving their business. You guys are the ones doing it, but the agent gets credit for that. And then what I've noticed as well is that once they start with a PEO, and especially the way you're going to monitor them over the time, to kind of float with them as they improve, to make sure that you're competitive, that once they start, they don't leave, like traditional comp, you're moving every year, every other year, which is not good for the carrier and the relationship with the agent. They hate that, having to move a client. But, wouldn't you guys say, like, you guys are above industry average, over 90% retention, most likely, for clients that are starting with you?
Yes, sir. Yeah, we try to make it hard to leave. Like you said, as long as we manage and maintain it, and folks like Jason stay in close contact with their clients, and they know what their concerns are and where they need help at, and it gets hard to leave that after a while. That's what I said. From an agent standpoint, if you call your client and they go, "Hey, I'm getting a good service, I got a good representation, I think I'm on the right track," why would they want to move? And why would the agent want to shop that around? Let's just keep it moving.
Right. And also this funny thing I was just thinking about is that all the reasons why, it's hard to get a client to be part of the PEO in the beginning, from a timing point, or, just getting them transitioned from one way they used to do payroll to the way that you do payroll, as an example. That same thing applies to why they stay. It's a pain in the neck to unwind everything. I mean, not to say that you guys are doing a great job, but like, it's a pain in the neck to leave. So that's what's great. And it's they now have seen the convenience of that vendor consolidation with the payroll and the workers' comp and seeing all the services you guys have provided. So what I've noticed is that they might potentially switch to another PEO because they now love it, you know. But then the way you guys operate with Southeast by kind of, again, you know, monitoring their account through the life cycle of their account, because it will ebb and flow, you know, you'll just ebb and flow with them on the pricing too. Then you're not, you know, caught out there and not helping them, right? So I've seen that with you guys too. Like once we write an account with you, you know, they hardly ever leave. As far
Well,
as
Eric, I have one leave. I had one leave yesterday, and I was like, "What did we do wrong? I've been talking to you, and this was a surprise to me." And he sold his business, so I don't feel so bad. But I'm gonna call it a new business and see what I can do to help them.
exactly. And then as far as the your approach to kind of client education with workers' comp and risk management, like can you kind of go through how you operate with that? We touched on a little bit with risk management, but you might have something further.
Yeah, keeping, you know, the risk management is two things. One, there's the comp claims, which we've touched on quite a bit, but the other thing that keeps clients up at night is staying compliant. Again, if you look at our client base, the roofers, the tree trimmers, the truck drivers, these guys, they don't know the ins and outs, again, of payroll and those kind of things. So we keep them compliant with local, state, and federal employment laws. That's important to us because, again, we're the employer of record at the end of the day.
A lot of them, I'm finding out, don't even know about the difference between a W-2 employee and a 1099 and how to classify them, and that's got to be done correctly too. You know, and another thing that came up recently last year was in Florida was the E-Verify. There's a new regulation that came in because of DeSantis, our governor's policy, and we helped our clients get through that, you know, ordeal or process. A lot of them called concerned about it, you know, because there's a lot of, permanent residents that work here, and that affects them, so, or could affect them. So we help them get through those regulations.
And Eric, they can find that. We keep all that information on our website. So, you know, as a client goes in to enter their payroll for the week, they'll see highlights of, hey, this may be a concern to you. You should probably check this out, and it helps. And plus, we do payroll stuffers and notifications. Yeah, the payroll tech, you're talking to these folks every week, so it's good for our team to keep them abreast of what the changes are coming.
Yeah, that's pretty valuable. Like a lot, you know, carriers don't have time to provide all that usually. If they do, it's, you know, definitely the client having to dig around where they can just pick the phone up or, you know, ask their service representative at Southeast to help them, direct them, you know, to that information. If you guys aren't just already providing it, you know, what I've noticed, you know, with our clients. You know, as far as like the future of workers' comp and like how Southeast is preparing for the changes, like talk through that a little bit.
We're not economy gurus by no means, but I just can't help but think, Eric, and I think we've talked about this before, workers' comp rates just continue to go down, down, down. At some point, the medical expenses aren't going down. It's going to get tougher for carriers to want to write risky business, if you will, especially, you know, again, the roofers and the tree trimmers, those types. There's not enough premium in it for them to want it anymore. So that's what we see happening. So from an agent standpoint, if that starts happening, that's when Southeast and I'm sure other PEOs, but Southeast for sure is very strong in a tough workers' comp market.
Right. That goes back to your size of the, you know, as well. There's you know, a better cost with larger numbers. And that's what the client's getting the benefit of by joining Southeast, is being part of your master policy, you know, where you guys are managing it very, very well and, you know, in all different types of markets. And again, size does, you know, help a lot on that. And then can you discuss kind of the importance of having these A-rated carriers? I know you've been with them for, you know, the same carriers really for quite some time.
Yeah, having an A-rated carrier is obviously important because a lot of construction sites, for example, won't let you on the job site unless you have an A-rated workers' comp carrier. There's a lot of non-rated carriers out there, but with Southeast, both of our carriers are A-rated. The other thing worth mentioning in that is we're seeing it more and more where these large, maybe they're building a hospital in Orlando or something. They say, hey, Mr. Business Owner, you can't come on our job site if your mod rate is above a 1.0. So again, like we mentioned earlier, our mod is a 0.68, I think it is. Mm-hmm. So when we're leasing the employees to that client, they adopt our mod rate. So now they can show where their mod is a 0.68 and get that job.
Very good. And I think like there's some states like California that are multiple coordinated policies for workers' comp where the client has to kind of keep their own mod. But I know there's many, many other states, majority actually, that would adopt your mod as the PEO, which can be really helpful,
exactly,
to get those jobs. And then, what advice, would you give clients that are in these high-risk industries like the roofing and heavy construction to kind of better manage their work comp risk and cost overall? What are you seeing out there? What would you advise just from a different, big picture point?
My advice, Eric, is you're a business owner, do what you're good at. Chances are you're not good at payroll. Chances are you're not good at fighting unemployment claims, or you're not good at handling workers' comp claims. You may be good at painting, or you may be good at roofing. My advice is grow your business. Make that be your focus. Don't let these other items that take up your day.
The administrative
stuff. Yeah. Outsource it to us, and then we'll take it from there. And you get to grow your business. Spend your time and your efforts growing your business.
Makes total sense. And then just in general, kind of going back to the beginning of the conversation about sort of the myths and misconceptions out there, or a lot of the objections really I hear from agents when I present the PEO model would be, oh, we've had so-and-so doing payroll in our offices now for 30 years. And if we, are we going to be able to get, sorry about that, my alarm went off. Are we going to get, are we going to have to get rid of this person, who's been doing this the whole time? How would you answer that one?
No, I mean, that's up to you if you want to get rid of them, but I would keep them because they're very knowledgeable. You'd have to have them. We still need a payroll contact. That would be our payroll contact. Okay. She or he shouldn't be the only thing they're not going to have to do anymore is doing the filings that they have to do. Paying the employees, we'll do that. We'll hand the, deliver the paychecks. So definitely we wouldn't want to, I would recommend them not to, eliminate that position or that person. You might eliminate that position per se, but not that person, and have them become another administrative function, or talk to them and see what else they want to do in that organization.
And Eric, we see it sometimes where a company is pretty small when they first come on board, and they had Wanda, I'm making up a name, doing the payroll, and she's done a great job. But now they're growing, and now they're going into other states, and maybe Wanda's not trained very well on what the requirements in Virginia may be for workers' comp, or what each state has its own nuance, if you will, and different laws. Again, it's a lot to ask for one person to know all those things. Where, again, if you partner with Southeast, we have a whole team that's their job, is to keep you compliant.
Perfect. Like, have you noticed where if a client is already, let's say, outsourcing their payroll to another company, like ADP or Paychex, would you say that's an easier transition in general, just from a culture standpoint, to get that client to make the switch over to Southeast because they've already outsourced it?
Yeah, I definitely would say that's easier to move over. The logistical part's easy because they can usually pull a report from the ADP, an Excel file, CSV file, and they just send it right to us, and the enrollment is much smoother versus maybe their own in-house where they can't quite get that file in the format that we need to be able to import into our system. But yes, the culture is already there, that they're already outsourcing it. They're just outsourcing it to us, who also happen to be able to provide workers' comp, which is really what they need.
Exactly. I've noticed that as well. And then like what I do ask the agents to do many times just to save time is go ahead and ask the client in advance, okay, if we came in with a competitive proposal to offer additional services and the workers' comp, would you be open to outsourcing or potentially changing the way you do payroll now, in order to gain access to better pricing, better services? And that way we kind of get that agent to make a pre-call and just say, would you be open to it? And I think a lot of the agents still fight me on it. They won't even pick the phone up or email them to ask. But the ones that do are really covering their bases now, because I've seen it a few times, especially in these higher risk clients, where the agent never presented the PEO as an option, and they got clocked by another agent who presented several PEOs at once. Actually, some of them do it that way. I like picking the best proposal for the client based on their needs, and only presenting one option is confusing enough. And I know that's the way you guys operate, but I've asked these agents to do that, and the ones that do it are definitely covering their bases and are not getting surprised.
Yeah.
From an agency, I would want to present all options, much like you said, because if you lose that work comp piece, that next agent, he's not going to stop at the work comp. He's going to go for all lines. So to your point, why not present every option out there to the client?
Right. And like if I'm having a conversation with a client, it would be, hey, listen, I know you've asked for a work comp renewal or a work comp pricing, by itself, but I think based on your industry, I think it's in your best interest to keep pricing level for over time, to look at a PEO model, in addition to what I'm going to be providing you on just workers' comp. And not to say you need to choose this option, but I really would like you to see it and have a presentation, a very quick presentation, by the marketing reps from the PEO programs, and see if it might be something you could use. If not, no problem. We'll look at it again next year, but I want you to know about it. Have you ever had a proposal from a PEO? Have you ever had a presentation from a PEO before? Getting the agents in habit of asking that really sets them apart, makes them look better, makes them look more knowledgeable, because they're looking out for the client and the stability that you get, with the PEO from year to year, versus this, hanging out there by yourself on your own policy, that's what I've seen. And the ones that embrace it, are usually higher income agents.
Yes, sir. A lot of times there, we see it to where they just run out of time on a standard comp policy. And because with us, you don't have to be with us for a 12-month period. So a lot of times they'll put them with us as a short-term Band-Aid, hoping to get some more quotes in. I've seen it to where the client goes, hey, don't worry about it. We're good. We like this program. So sometimes they come in kicking and screaming, but then it's hard to get them out of it.
Exactly. And I think the agents they're not like us and knowing PEO backwards and forwards and how to handle the objection. So once a client says, no, do not look at a PEO, they stop there. And again, client could just have a misconception, or again, maybe it's not a fit. It's just not a fit for their business right now. But could be later. But I think that's where the agents they stop. And so that's where I think, and I know our folks have got a lot of PEO background in addition to work comp and insurance. So we try to tell them, hey, look, let us speak to the client just for a moment to go through it. If they give you objections, we'll know how to handle those. We still get some resistance to that because, the agents are still protective of that relationship. However, we only work through agents. So we would never go around that relationship. We only would work through the agent And like you said, and you guys are great, and everyone we work with too on the PEO side is more than willing to have that agent involved on that presentation actually, so they can continue to kind of learn more and get a few talking points. Wouldn't you guys agree?
Yes, sir. Absolutely.
I would love the chance to be able to quote and to the agent, okay? And then if they need me on the call, I would love to be able to do that. Sometimes if you ask the client if they're open to PEO, the first thing they're going to say, what is that? Or they might have already heard, and they'll immediately say no. Without even seeing that, we might be 40% lower on your work comp than with standard carrier. Are you sure it's no? You want to hear like what they're about, this program? So it'd be nice to be able to get to that level without getting cut off right away. Going back to what you were saying about, Sean was saying like how somebody was kicking and screaming coming to us because, we were the only opportunity for them. I've had clients tell me, I've had the owner talk to me and say, as soon as I can leave you, I'm leaving. And that was 3 years ago, and they're still with us.
Right.
To his point earlier is that, yeah, I was like surprised he would say that to me, but he didn't like the fact that he was told that we were the only option. But I told him, I'm going to work to keep you with us. And the only way to really do that is, well, one, we got to give good service, and the payroll has to be superior. We have to give good service with payroll. It's people's paychecks. Okay, so let's just say that's all good. Everybody's all good. But I'm also going to review your account, and do that thing I told you about earlier. Every 4 to 5 months, I'm going to review it and see if I can get you down lower. If I can get your rates competitive or better, and your payroll is doing good, what is there a reason to leave? I don't know many reasons why you should want to leave. And the agent loves it because they're not having to worry about renewals every year or even losing the GL with somebody else.
Or even do a certificate. You guys handle certificates for the client too.
Yeah. Well, we do have to. Yeah. Some people are like, why? Well, can I just put it on my certificate with GL? No, we have to put it on our own. But I'll handle that. I'll take care of that. Some agents don't get involved at all. Once the submission's done, I present, I enroll. That's it. Some other ones, they want to be involved a little more. Usually nobody wants to do the certificate. I get the emails in the evenings and then or a text, with the name of the cert holder, and I take care of it for them.
No, that's perfect. And then, that from an agency perspective, they're set up to do it, of course, but the more they can outsource that, the better, just because it's just a cost to the agent to have to worry with that. And a lot of carriers now, even on the standard market, are requiring that they actually produce the certificate as well, versus an agent. So you guys are right in line, with that model, and it just helps the agency overall reduce their overall ops costs, which helps them make, more money, as well. And then, I know you guys write a ton of industries, so I think there's probably less to talk about as far as what you don't write. Can you, off the top of your head, can you just throw out like what you can't write in terms of an industry right now?
Man.
Well, adult entertainment club.
Yeah, we don't do them. Yeah.
Okay. I can say that right now. For our owner does not write those. Asbestos, we used to say we couldn't write them, and then now if it's got a certain amount of premium, like $250,000 in premium, we may entertain that. So it's on a case-by-case basis for that one. Man, other than just, I think that's it, really.
How about USL?
Aviation, pilot.
Clubs. Okay.
Yeah.
There's some reinsurance treaty exclusions, like we can't write companies that manufacture explosives, that kind of stuff. But it's, to your point, it's
very little.
Very little.
That's pretty good. Explosives, yeah. I mean, there's not anything. How about USL&H?
Yes, sir. We do write USL&H.
Yep, that's unique as well. And again, they have to be in a state that you have coverage in, which you guys are in probably 30-something states or more now.
We're in 23 states in Washington, D.C. So basically New York, all the way down to Florida, all the way across to California, and then some spotty states here and there, Indiana, Illinois, Tennessee, Colorado.
Perfect.
We also, hey, by the way, Eric, we also do certified payroll. So sometimes or some of the advanced payroll needs, we do offer that. That some of these clients, they just don't know about that very much, or they get an email and ask about it. So.
Or their fear is they don't want to partner with the PEO because they have to provide that. Well, we can provide it for them.
And how about OSIP work, OCIP? Can you guys work through that?
Yes, sir, we can.
Perfect. So like I said, you guys are very geared to the blue collar space. You got the types of reports they need with certified payroll. You know about OSIP, which is really hard for many payroll, even payroll only companies to work through sometimes, how to categorize that properly, and give the client the correct reports for that. So you guys are already, dialed totally into that as well. Commission wise, I'll speak to that. You're very similar in commission to what you would get paid on workers' comp. But the good news, it also includes administration, the way we, pay the commissions. So you actually get a little bump if you're an agent by offering the PEO versus just workers' comp, get better retention rates, get more service for the client, less operational expense for certificates, and really dealing with a lot of the day-to-day nuances of claims and things of that nature, like you'd have to worry with a carrier, because a lot of agencies have their own claims teams on staff because the carriers are so overwhelmed that they have to sort of manage it. Well, they can still do that with you per se, but they're not going to have to worry as much because you guys have the skin in the game, like we talked about. Anything else in parting you guys wanted to, come up with or, put out there from an agent perspective?
I don't know. I don't think so. That was very well, Eric. I like that.
Yes.
I'm gonna need a copy of this recording.
You need to send this out to all your agent contacts. You guys really informative, and I appreciate your time. And then to keep it simple, since you guys mainly deal with wholesale agencies like ourselves at Insurance Solutions, if anyone here on the call has any questions, please email me directly. It's Eric, eric.stein@insuredsolutions.net, or I also can get forwards from the info at insuredsolutions.net. And my direct line is 770-402-5343. And we will get that submission over to Southeast for you and make sure that we get, these guys involved in the product presentation as well. And appreciate the partnership with both you, Jason, and Sean. You guys are really easy to work with. And, I just wish more agents were as easy to work with as you guys are easy to work with. But in terms of the PEO model, but thank you both for your time. I know you guys put a lot of effort into helping, get this information together for us and go through it. So again, really, really appreciate it.
Thanks for having us, Eric.
All right. Thank you so much, Eric.
Thanks again for tuning in to Insurance Shop Talk. If you enjoyed our deep dive into the latest trends, please don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell so you never miss an episode. Until next time, I'm Eric Stein, and this has been Insurance.